Welcome to Tech in the Right Direction, the podcast. This week, I'll be speaking with Dr. Amy Buckley. Amy is the founder of Proov and the inventor of the first and only FDA-cleared test to confirm ovulation at home. When Amy and her husband tried to get pregnant, they suffered through several years of infertility, including 7 miscarriages and 2 rounds of IVF, the second of which resulted in her son. When Amy decided she wanted another child without another round of IVF, she used her background in hormone signaling to uncover a problem with ovulation, which caused a progesterone deficiency, also called luteal phase defect. With the help of an inexpensive progesterone supplement, Amy and her husband were blessed with their daughter. Amy invented the original PDG test in her basement to help women identify problems with ovulation at home and started selling them in plastic bags on Amazon with a $50 logo off Upwork. Welcome to the show, Amy. I'm so excited to have you on.
I am so excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Sure, great. Let's get started. So, Amy, as a woman in business, can you share with us your career journey and how you got to where you are today?
Yeah, absolutely. It was not an easy journey. Known in the social community as the infertile scientist, because I've paired my professional and my personal life to be where I'm at today. I have a PhD in pharmacology. I've been studying hormone signaling. I just love figuring out how things work. What happens in the body when we have a disease or a cancer, and figuring out the mechanisms of that. And then I had my own personal battle with infertility and recurrent miscarriage. And I just was so frustrated at the fact that here I am, this smart, educated woman, couldn't do something as easy as having a baby. I mean, I just blew my mind. I went to doctors after I had a couple losses, and they said, oh, it's normal, it happens. Ran a whole bunch of tests, everything came back normal. I got my diagnosis of unexplained infertility. Telling a scientist you have unexplained anything is like not the best situation. It just lit the fire to kind of figure out what was going on with me. For my first child, I did in vitro fertilization, or IVF. We had to do a couple rounds, and I was fortunate enough to go to a really good clinic and a really good doctor. But it wasn't cheap. It was, $40,000 to
Wow.
have a child. And so after that, I went back to the doctor, and I sat in his office, and I was like, all right, MD to PhD, let's work this out. What are we missing? What is going on? How do I get pregnant again, but without IVF? And so after, a bunch of conversations, we came to this theory that I just wasn't producing enough of the hormone that supports pregnancy. So that hormone's called progesterone. It's what basically, causes implantation of the embryo, and for you to hold that pregnancy at any time. If it gets too low, that can cause infertility, miscarriage, preterm birth, all kinds of fun things. And then after the baby comes out, it's that drop in progesterone that can cause postpartum depression.
Wow.
Yeah. So I said, okay, well, you gave me this progesterone during IVF, and that obviously worked. Why don't we skip the IVF and just give me that progesterone? And he said, sure, let's do it. And so I did, and I have a 9-year-old daughter. I was like,
that is amazing. That is amazing. Okay.
Thanks. Yeah. I was like, wow. That's all it took, right? Was this simple pharmaceutical that's been given to, women in menopause take it constantly. It's part of HRT, hormone replacement therapy. It's in every single IVF procedure. So it's a very safe medication. But there was no good diagnostic test to say which woman needed it, because blood testing just didn't track it over the right period of time. And so it was too hard to say, okay, well, we're going to track your levels, come back to the lab for 4 days in a row, and we're going to stick you with a needle 4 days. So we turned it into a urine-based test. And Yeah, we measure urine instead of blood. We look at the metabolite instead of the hormone directly. And we just see, is it elevated? Does it remain elevated, when, implantation is supposed to be happening? And if not, we flag you and say, okay, this is a possible problem with ovulation, which is the leading cause of infertility. And they go to their doctor and they ask about certain medications. So we've helped over 150,000 couples worldwide understand their fertility and help get them pregnant.
Wow, that is amazing. You have really solved a big, big issue for women, right? I mean, that's amazing.
Thanks.
That's great. So your own experiences is what drove you to develop and create Proov, right? So tell us more about that.
Yeah, I mean, when I was in this journey myself, I was a scientist and I was, charting. You could do like temperature charting, take your temperature every morning, and you can do the ovulation tests. And I could tell something was wrong, but the medical community was, oh, you haven't been trying long enough. You haven't had enough losses. And I just thought that that was so unfair to put these arbitrary time periods and, I had to have 3 pregnancy losses before you seek medical care. It's just insane to me. And so I decided I wanted women to have access to this information themselves so they could advocate for a treatment faster. I mean, like, you don't say, well, you have to have COVID 3 times before we treat you. You
Right.
have,
Right.
Oh, sorry. This is the first time you had cancer. Just wait 2 more times.
Oh, geez.
So enabling physicians and patients to have a better diagnostic tool to start those conversations easy, faster, to have more informed information to guide treatment. That was the entire goal.
Wow. And so then you decided, okay, I'm going to take all this knowledge and put it where we can help other women, right?
Yes. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. And so I was a scientist who spent all her money on fertility treatments. And so, we weren't these like, fancy, investors or bankers or whatever that had all this, this money. So we did crowdfunding. We just,
That's great.
Me and another scientist that also went through infertility got together, put some, materials together and tested some stuff in my basement and, just a crowdfunding campaign and said, hey, do you want to be able to test your progesterone at home? And, these women were like, yes, absolutely. This would be amazing. And so we got funded and we developed the device and we just put it out there and people bought it. And then we made more and then they bought it and we made more and we just been growing. And
That's great.
Yeah.
I'm so impressed. That's amazing. I mean, women are so impressive when they start to put their mind to something, it gets done. And, you said you've helped over 150,000 couples that would not have been able to maybe have a child or, understand the whole fertility process. So that's amazing. So you've done some amazing work helping women. Can you share with us some of the specific problems with ovulation?
Yeah. So people always think, ovulation is the release of the egg, and there's things at the drugstore, the grocery store, Amazon, you can get ovulation tests and you pee on them and it turns positive. You're like, okay, it's time to have intercourse. This is the baby making time. But that's not the only part of the story. The other part of ovulation is preparing the uterus for implantation. So timing intercourse can help you fertilize the egg, but implanting in the uterus is a bigger cause of infertility than timing intercourse correctly for fertilization. And so really opening up that that concept, that idea to women and to physicians that, hey, there is a way to look at, that it's ovulation, it can have problems with it. And here's how you know that there's a problem with it by testing this hormone marker, across when implantation happens. And, I was getting pregnant. Had positive pregnancy tests. obviously, releasing an egg, but there was a problem with that ovulation that was preventing me from carrying that successful pregnancy.
Mm-hmm. So that is another piece of the puzzle that maybe a lot of people didn't know about.
Yes.
Okay, great. Wow. That's so amazing. So why do you think ovulation is not a yes/no event? So, a lot of times people think, okay, either yes or no, but you don't think so. Tell us why.
Yeah. So, you can release an egg, but you can have a poor uterine environment that doesn't support implantation. And so it's just like sperm. It's not like you have sperm or you don't, right? Do you have enough sperm to swim to the egg to fertilize it? So you can have a low sperm count or a high sperm count, or you can have no sperm. But the same thing with ovulation. You can have a good ovulation or a bad ovulation. We actually score ovulation on a score of 0 to 100. Think of it as like a report card. And so the longer that progesterone marker remains high in urine, the higher the score that you have, and that's the higher probability of conception. We did a clinical study where we looked at women's, it's called PDG, that marker, that progesterone marker in urine, across this 4-day implantation window. And women that had a high level after ovulation had an 8 times higher pregnancy rate than the ones that had a low marker after. Yeah. So it's not that they can't get pregnant if it's low. It's just there's a higher chance. And so it's all about increasing chances of pregnancy, odds of pregnancy.
So I think you said 4 days, but I'm not sure. I wanted to ask you on when you're testing your urine for progesterone, how often do you have to test and how many counts of scores do you take?
Yeah, it's 4 days. So if you think about a woman's cycle, and it's let's say it's about 25, 30 days. And so the first part of the cycle, she's growing her egg, she's producing estrogen, and then maybe if she's taken an ovulation test, that'll turn positive. That's when the egg kind of comes out of the ovary, and that's when she should time intercourse for sperm meets egg. And then 7 days later is when you test for progesterone. And it's because it takes 7 days for that egg to be fertilized by the sperm, travel down the fallopian tube into the uterus to where it will implant. And so our testing is 7, 8, 9, and 10 days, so that 4-day window after when ovulation happened, to confirm that you did ovulate successfully and you do have that sustained high progesterone marker in urine, because that's when it needs to be high, which is when implantation happens.
That's amazing. Yeah, you have it down to a science that, a lot of people could lose that window of 4 days and, not be able to ovulate or, successfully.
Yeah. Right. So we know it's confusing. There's all these hormones, there's all these days, this and that. So we have this free app. It's on Android as well as iOS. You download it, you input your cycle stats, when was the first day of your last period, how long your cycle, and we'll load in everything for you. We'll tell you exactly when to test. We'll read it. We'll tell you the hormone values. We'll tell you if it was positive, negative, and then we'll give you that score at the end. So everything is digitized. You have to remember to open up your app each morning, see if it's a test day, collect your first morning urine.
What is the app called?
It's the Proov Insight app. So Proov Insight app. Yeah.
Great. Yeah, I think definitely our listeners can benefit from downloading the app and starting, their process.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's great. Well, what do couples need to know before beginning their pregnancy journey? Because I think, it's important for them to consider what's going to happen and understand the process. So what are some of the things they need to consider?
We need to consider age. Women are waiting, couples are waiting longer to start families because it takes longer to buy a house, like start a career. And so age is a big factor. So if you're starting your fertility journey after the age of 30, just know that 1 out of every 6 or 8 couples has fertility challenges, and it might be, it might take a little bit longer to get pregnant. And, the other thing is to know is that, in vitro fertilization or IVF is not the only option to get women pregnant. A lot of times they think, okay, I'm going to try on my own. I'll download some free cycle tracking app, like, Clue or Glow or something like that. They're going to tell me the fertile window. I didn't have, I had intercourse in the fertile window. I didn't get pregnant. I'm going to go see, this fancy reproductive endocrinologist, and then I'm going to do IVF. And it's not cut and dry like that. There's a lot of opportunities to have more cost-effective treatments as well. So biggest advice I say for couples that are planning or beginning their journey is to get all the testing done. Men included. We also have a sperm test, a home sperm test that checks modal sperm count.
Nice.
About 40% of infertility cases are the male. And so, we shouldn't, as women, take on all the responsibility of tracking our cycle and timing our intercourse and all this stuff when, there's male factor as well. And so, to try to be proactive about it and understand what could be affecting fertility is, I think, much better, because once we call it the pit of despair. So every single month you get a negative pregnancy test and you just get deeper into this depression where you just feel like it's never going to happen. I'm never going to be a mom. And it's just this downward spiral. And so that at that point, it's not a good time to start the testing, because, you might go down the road of really expensive fertility treatments. Whereas if you start the testing at the beginning and you're in this, like, this is great. We're totally ready. It's going to be so much fun. All this extra.
Not be discouraged right away. Yeah.
Exactly. And so I just think that, being informed about it is just a lot better than just thinking it as a big, black box and being stressed out about it. I mean, there's some crazy stat that almost 86% of couples that go through infertility it's more of the woman, are depressed.
Yeah.
That's a huge percentage.
And that really defeats the purpose, right? So if you start out on the correct path, hopefully that number is considerably reduced, because now you know the journey. You're looking at both of your processes, not just the woman, right? Like you said, the male sperm count, 40% is on the male. So why should you take full responsibility of that too? So that's so important to know. You're saying some amazing things. I have 2 daughters, so it's amazing to hear this, because, it is really, really good information and knowledge that they should have prior to any pregnancy journey.
Yeah.
That's great. So is your field a male-dominated field? I didn't know, and I wanted to ask. And is there equity in that field between male and female?
So women's health is really the only field that is woman-dominated.
Oh, good.
But it's very underfunded and it's very under-recognized. But the reason it's women-dominated is because women see it as opportunity. They have things that happen to them personally, and they decide, I'm going to go fix this, right? Like, one of my good friends is Jenna Ryan of Eucora. She had like 8 UTIs in 1 year. And so she developed a whole supplement system to help with UTIs. And she is doing fantastic because there's so many other women that have that issue.
Right.
So, it is, female dominated, but it's not really taken seriously yet.
It's not supported like it should be.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Is there equity? I don't know. The medical profession is a profession. It is a job. Like, they have to have revenue, or else they cannot, be a medical provider or a clinic. And so I always like to remind people when they're seeking out healthcare to remember that it's their business, right? And so, sometimes you get doctors that aren't out there for the best intentions that are going to ask you to do really expensive procedures or things that aren't needed. So just kind of that's why we're a direct to consumer company, is we give it straight to the woman. She doesn't have to go through any hoops or red tape or anything to get it. No prescription needed, because we want her to have that information.
Right.
Whereas like sometimes there's no access. Maybe there's no clinic close by, or maybe the clinic that they go to says, "Oh, we only do IVF here." So it's about options and being educated, and it's just kind of thinking in advance. Is this the best chance? This is the best opportunity for me. Is this what's right for my family?
Yeah, I didn't realize how expensive IVF is. Wow.
Yeah.
And that could be a huge cost and eliminate so many people who want to have a child that don't.
Yeah. No, fertility is elective, just like getting, plastic surgery is elective. I'm like, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, I agree. So, Amy, what are your thoughts on achieving work-life balance? I know there's so much talk about this. Is there such a thing? You have kids at home, you're a scientist, you have a company. How do you achieve that if you can?
It's really hard. It's really, really hard. I feel like I don't do a very good job of it, but
I'm with you.
Simple things that I do is I block off my calendar every morning and afternoon, and I take my kids to school.
Nice.
And I make that a priority. They are old enough that they could technically walk by themselves, but I like to kind of be there and see them when they come home.
How old are they?
12 and 9.
Oh, nice. Yeah. And it's nice to have mom there. It's a nice security.
Yeah. And then I like to do, one weekend day to do something, fun, or, put the computer down and at least have a few hours of just
uninterrupted time with them. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the best you can do, is really blocking out from your calendar. That's really the only thing I know that works, because if you leave it open, you're always going to be pinged. Somebody's going to ask for something. You're going to be pulled in different directions, and then you feel guilty later as a woman, So yeah, that's great that you're doing that. So I love to travel, and I always ask this question kind of selfishly because then I can add to my bucket list. So where is your most favorite place that you've traveled to, and why?
So I just came back a month ago from India.
Oh, wow.
And I didn't think I would like it, but I actually loved it.
Oh, tell me why.
So India is this huge country. I went to Mumbai, and I don't know if you've ever been to India, but
I have not. No.
So many people, and because there's so many people, they just have like asphalt, and it's every man for themselves, and you just drive. There's no lines. There's no
Did you drive there?
I didn't drive. I was in a vehicle. I did not drive personally.
Okay. Yeah, smart. But they told me not to drive in Rome, and we didn't. So that was really good.
Yeah,
good advice.
But there's a bunch of motorcycles, and then there's these things they call them different things. Auto is what they call them there, but they're tuk-tuks or rickshaws. But there's just like an ATV with a aluminum shell over the top.
Okay. It's just a means of transportation, correct?
Yeah. Whoever's listening, Google it. It's like amazing. Like it's so thrilling to be out there in the middle of the road, and like you're weaving out of traffic, and you're getting so close to other people. It's thrilling. It's honestly.
It's a Disney ride that's not a ride.
Right. Where you actually could die.
That's why it's thrilling.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, but yeah, I liked it. And the people there were very respectful.
Mhm.
Unless you were, trying to get into a building or some kind of line, that courtesy of,
Not
oh,
supposed to get, yeah.
I'm gonna open the door for you, and then you'll go through and you'll keep it open. No, they will just all walk through, and you'll be standing with the door because there's so many people. You have to
Mhm.
go when it's time to go, or else you get left
Mhm.
behind.
Right.
But yeah, it was really cool. I really enjoyed the culture. I learned a lot of stuff on arranged marriages, which is
Mm.
just so
It
fascinating.
is fascinating. I've learned some things with friends of mine and just acquaintances that I've met along the way that have told me things that is just amazing, like the dowry piece and the,
Yeah.
family history and all of that. It is so amazing.
I mean, it's like literally finding your perfect match.
Hmm.
You do.
Yeah, and they really take a lot of pride and time into that and take the steps necessary. I think there was some show we watched on Netflix that kind of showed that process, and it was very interesting.
Yeah, very cool. But yeah,
How was the
just pick.
food? How did you like the food? Because I love Indian food.
Um, they
It's
have
an acquired taste. I mean, you have to love it or you don't.
yeah. Um, I'm not a big spicy food
Yep.
fan, so
Yep.
that was kind of tough. And then if you're a foreigner, you shouldn't eat any raw vegetables or raw
Oh, okay.
fish because of the water is not good.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So by the time I came back, I was really craving a nice salad.
Yeah, yeah, because you couldn't have anything. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
great. That's true. I never thought about the raw vegetables in Mexico. When we go to Mexico, we don't drink the water or you don't have the ice, but
Yeah.
never thought about the vegetables. But that's really a good point.
Yeah. Yeah.
So no, I have to add that to my list. It's not on my list, so I will add it because it
You should.
sounds amazing. It's the culture, it's the you just immerse yourself into that and it's kind of cool.
Yeah. Yeah. It was great. I mean, I've been to Tijuana, TJ. I've lived in San Diego, and that one's rough. That's like you gotta really be careful. You gotta be with someone you trust and
Hmm.
carry a 20. Like you've all heard the stories. In India, I didn't feel that way. It wasn't
Good.
unsafe.
Yeah.
No.
Because the people are just so welcoming and they're nice and
Yeah.
they are respectful, so it makes you feel a little more comfortable, I think.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, that's great. Well, Amy, this was such a pleasure to have you on the show. I just loved our conversation. Thank you for all that you're doing for women because it's so important to have somebody like you just take charge and move the needle so that, women can have a better experience and a better life. So thank you for that. Please share with our listeners how they can get a hold of you.
Yeah, so if you need anything fertility testing or support, you can find us online at proovtest.com. It's proovtest.com. We're also on Amazon. So most of our products you can buy on Amazon, use the Prime, get them there immediately. We're on social media, Instagram and Facebook. The tag is at ProveTest. A lot of education. We love educating. So just come on, follow us, get some free fertility tips.
That's great. Great. Thank you so much. This was such a pleasure and an honor to have you on the show.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to Tech in the Right Direction. Please take a minute to subscribe or follow so that you never miss an episode. Also, don't forget to like, share, and comment. Thank you. See you next week.
From IT skill enhancements to end-user adoption training, Directions Training is your resource to help optimize the effectiveness of your technology investments. Over 500,000 students have taken advantage of our wide selection of technology and business training solutions covering the most popular applications today, such as Microsoft 365, Azure, Windows 10, and more. As a podcast listener, we invite you to take advantage of an exclusive offer. Receive 30 days of free access to our Microsoft official curriculum on-demand courses for IT professionals or end users. Visit us at www.directionstraining.com/podcast to claim this offer today. Hurry, this offer is only available for a limited time. Success is a journey. Ask for directions.